say about
Yeah. Okay. So, why don't we? So I've read through the first 10 chapters. Where are you at right now?
yeah, I just reread 8 through 12. So I'm most familiar with 8 through yeah.
Okay. Well, so can we just, since I've only read through 10, can we just kind of go back and kind of talk about 1 through 10 today?
Yeah, for sure. And 1 through 7 or 8, 1 through 7 will be kind of rusty for me. And me
Yeah, well, that's okay. It'll come back to you as we're
yeah.
doing it. Um, and then and then there's, I'm just looking. Then there's like 31. Yeah, there's like 31 chapters in First Samuel, or maybe 30. Yeah, 31. So
Yeah.
if we kind of did them in maybe like 10 chapter chunks,
Yeah, for sure. That'd be good.
that'd be cool. So, um, have you been writing anything down, like in journal or
No,
anything
I,
like
I
that, or?
I haven't, and I just looked at my journal. I go, I should have been writing stuff down, but I definitely will be writing stuff down now. Now that we're doing this, so
Yeah,
this is good. This is what I want is accountability.
yeah, yeah. Well, okay, so the thing that really inspired me about this was, and Grady, you're listening to this, so we're not talking behind your back because you're going to listen to this. But when you Grady said something about, like, yeah, I don't know, like I haven't really, just been sort of reading through it, but haven't been getting a lot out of it. And
Yeah,
I was thinking, really, like of all the books in the Old Testament, like I think like First and Second Samuel are like one of my favorites because there's like so much stuff in there.
that's what I've heard. Yeah,
Yeah, and so that's what kind of inspired me to go back and kind of reread it. um and so um and so I have been like writing some stuff down in
oh
my
man, yeah,
journal. And well, this is like several days worth. It's not,
yeah,
but so let's kind of recap. And I think by doing this today, this will help you to kind of like see the way I approach this stuff, like in terms of like
yeah,
how do you get something out of it. um so
absolutely.
yeah. Okay, so first of all, like the first three chapters, it's basically all about, like Samuel, and just like his miraculous birth, because like it starts off, and his mom can't get pregnant. They've got no kids. Um and and um so but it's cool because Samuel's parents were like really awesome. We'd say Christians now, but they were really awesome. Followers of God, godly people. Like for example, verse 3 in chapter 1: year after year, this man went up from his town to worship and sacrifice to the Lord.
Hmm.
So he was a guy. I'm reading out of just the NIV right
Me
now.
too.
Okay. Um, but then, like verse 10: in bitterness of soul, Hannah wept much and prayed to the Lord, and she made a vow, saying, "O Lord Almighty, if you will only look upon your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life." Um, and so like it, so one of the things that struck me about that is, just because you're following God and even a really godly person, it
Hmm.
doesn't mean that, everything's just going to be rosy all the time.
Yeah,
There's huge challenges. And here, she's, weeping, and just, it says your servant's misery. She's like so defeated and all that, but she just prays this really fervent prayer to the Lord and says, God, if you'll give me a son,
hmm,
I'm going to give him back to you,
hmm,
and he's going to serve you, for all of his life. And so then, I'm also, by the way, I don't know if you, besides writing your journal, also like I underline like the key lines that really
yeah,
stand out, which is why it's like super easy for me to go back and I can just jump around from verse to verse
yeah.
um, because I can see what I underlined. So like, end of verse 15, it says, I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. And then in verse 20, so in the course of time, Hannah conceived and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel because or saying, because I asked the Lord for him. I guess Samuel must mean because I asked the Lord for him or something like that.
Yeah.
And then verse 27, I prayed for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him. So now I give him to the Lord. For his whole life, he will be given over to the Lord. And he worshiped the Lord there. And that was like the dad, I think. And so that whole chapter, it's really like if you skim over it, it'd be easy to just kind of go, oh yeah, there's nothing really there. But in actuality, like it's an amazing picture of like this faithful couple that like, again, like verse 3, year after year, they go to the temple and they worship the Lord, and even though they didn't have any kids, even though they really wanted it, and then finally, God answers their prayer, and then they follow through with what they were going to do, and so then in chapter 2, it kind of continues, because now it's like this first part is like Hannah has this prayer, like the first part of chapter 2, like the whole first thing is like it's Hannah's prayer. Then Hannah prayed.
Yeah,
I
have it.
Yeah,
Subtitle.
Yeah. My heart rejoiced in the Lord, and on it goes. And I underlined this line in verse 3. I thought this was kind of cool. For the Lord is a God who knows. For the Lord is a God who knows. I thought that was really cool. Like there's just like so many little nuggets in here,
yeah.
And then like the end of verse 9 and the beginning of verse 10, it is not by strength that one prevails. Those who oppose the Lord will be shattered. So it's not about being strong. It's about, in this case, not opposing the Lord. So meanwhile, they give Samuel to Eli, the high priest, and so now Samuel is a young man, a boy, and he's living in the home of the high priest, and then it talks about how like Eli's sons are wicked. They're not following God. But verse 18, but Samuel was ministering before the Lord, a boy wearing a linen ephod. I'm not sure what that is, but
something relevant to the culture.
Yeah, exactly. And then this is pretty cool. Verse 21, and the Lord was gracious to Hannah, Samuel's mother. She conceived and gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. Meanwhile, the boy Samuel grew up in the presence of the Lord. So how cool is that? Because she initially prayed fervently that God would bless her with a child, and then if you give me a son, I will give him back to you. And she followed through. Then God blessed her with 5 more kids.
I missed that the first time. That's awesome. I didn't catch that.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, I mean, some people might look into it and say, oh yeah, she prayed, God gave her son and she gave him the Lord, but then you read on, I guess, God blessed her with more kids through her loyalty and faithfulness, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
And then verse 26, I really liked it. And it says, and the boy Samuel continued to grow in stature and in favor with the Lord and with men. So he's growing, like literally just physically growing, but also in favor with the Lord and in favor with men. And I just kind of wrote a little sub line right next to that, like that's my prayer for like my own sons and that any younger kids that I'm around. That would be my prayer, that they would, as they're growing up, that they would also grow in favor with the Lord and favor with God. What a great prayer for a dad of boys. Then keep moving, through like verse 30, those who honor me, I will honor, but those who despise me will be disdained. That's God speaking. Those
Mhm.
who honor me, I will honor. Um, and then verse 35, I will raise up for myself a faithful priest who will do according to what is in my heart and mind. And so, because Eli's sons were bad guys, the Lord is now raising up Samuel to be, the next, like, basically high priest slash like prophet for
Was
Israel.
it? I mean, I last year I read Judges, so and I heard would he be considered a judge in this time, or is
I don't think he was a judge. I think he was a prophet.
okay?
Yeah.
No, yeah, I
Um,
just remembered.
yeah, yeah. And so then like verse or chapter 3, verse 1, that the boy Samuel ministered before the Lord under Eli. In those days, the word of the Lord was rare. There were not many visions. Um, so it
Hmm.
was kind of a little bit of a darker period during that time. But then Samuel has like a total, even though, so they introduce what's about to happen by saying this was a time when, people weren't hearing much from the Lord, and then the next thing you know, like, Samuel's getting this word from God, and he doesn't recognize it, so it's that whole first part of chapter 3 where like he keeps hearing Samuel, and
Oh
it's the
yeah,
Lord, and he doesn't know that it's the Lord.
that's right. I
And
remember reading this the first time. I was really intrigued. I forgot about this.
yeah, yeah. Um, and like verse 7, now Samuel did not yet know the Lord. The word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. So so I thought that was interesting. Even though he was, a godly young man and all that, it says that he still didn't like totally really know the Lord yet, because the word of the Lord had not been revealed to him yet.
Mm.
So, so God has to reveal himself to us. Um,
Is that? I mean, is that something? Is that a pre Christ thing, pre Jesus thing, or is that something that we're still
well,
face today with, as far as I guess asking for God in our hearts, or
yeah, I mean, I think, the whole idea of just asking God to continue to reveal himself to us, would be a
yeah.
great prayer. Same with verse 9. So Eli told Samuel, go lie down, and if he calls you again, say, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. So
Hmm.
Samuel went and lay down in his place. The Lord came and stood there, calling as he had the other times, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel said, speak, for your servant is listening. And the Lord said to Samuel, see, I am about to do something in Israel that will make the ears of everyone who hears it tingle. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Like, I just love that, So
Yeah.
I love the fact that like, what a great prayer.
His servant is
Lord,
listening.
reveal yourself to me, and then, Lord, speak to me. I'm listening. Lord, speak to me. You know, and then the Lord just says this super cool thing. Like, he essentially says to Samuel, "All right, get ready, because I'm about to do something incredible." You know, and you're going to be in the middle of it.
Oh, so this is making more sense now too, as far as right after that, talking about how God is, so it's now God is punishing Eli for his lack of care raising his kids. Is that what it's
Well, no,
saying?
it's not so much he's punishing Eli. I don't think. Um, it's just that his son, Eli's getting old, so his sons have to take over, but they're not godly. So it essentially goes to Samuel to be the
Mm.
one to take over. Um,
Therefore, I swear the guilt of Eli's house. I'm looking at 14 here. Wait, see me down.
14. Therefore, I swore to the house of Eli, the guilt of Eli's house will never be atoned for by sacrifice or offering.
So
Yeah.
so wait,
Oh,
so
well, maybe so.
that's what. So I'm looking at. So it says 13. For I told him that I would judge his family forever because of the sin he knew about it, his son's blasphemy of God. He failed to
Oh,
show.
I forgot about that. That was one of the things I didn't underline. Was what I didn't, that didn't do a whole lot
So
for me.
so
So
yeah, I mean, then I guess is it so so is God telling Samuel then about his promise to what Lord's afraid to tell you that? Oh yeah, that's right. Because then it goes, and I remember this. It goes on to 15 where it says he was afraid to tell Samuel was afraid to tell Eli the vision
that's
because
right. That's right.
because the vision was punishment for him. That's
Yeah, it's not good news.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Eli's just sitting there like, what did he tell you? And
yeah. And so
yeah,
Samuel's like, you don't really want to know, but okay, well, here's what he said. He is the Lord, let him. And then Eli said, he is the
yeah.
Lord, let him do what is good in his eyes. And the Lord was with Samuel as he grew up, and he let none of his words fall to the ground. I thought that was a pretty incredible
Mm-hmm.
statement. Then 21, the Lord continued to appear at Shiloh, and there he revealed himself to Samuel through his word. And
Mm-hmm.
Samuel's word came to all Israel. So that kind of wraps up those first three chapters.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the birth and the growth, and then the passing of the baton to Samuel. So and then
Yeah.
like chapter 4 um, and 5 and 6 are kind of interesting. Again, the kind of thing that really is how do you get anything out of this? It's all about these, this the Philistines capturing the ark and all this stuff. But
Yeah. So what
like,
I was trying to watch videos about it too to understand it. So basically, what they capture the ark, and then something happened. I
so
can't
do you know what
remember.
the ark is?
I mean, I
It's like,
know it's like a idol. It's like a thing, but I don't know what is there something inside of it that
well,
makes it holy?
I don't really know. I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
supposed to be it's supposed to be the actual
yeah,
this is where they got that from, and
yeah.
it was supposed to be the place. I picture it being like a big treasure chest or something,
Right. I do
where
too.
the presence of God dwelled in that ark,
Yes.
and so I picture it being with a big four little poles,
Yeah,
four big poles, and they
that's how
carry
it's
it.
envisioned. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I imagine it. But basically it was the place. It lived, the Ark of the Covenant lived in the Holy of Holies in the temple. And that's where the presence of God dwelled, where his Holy Spirit dwelled, the
Yeah.
power of God dwelled. It was in the ark. And then of course that's what's then so powerful about in the book of Acts, when then it says, now or at the end of the Gospels, and then at the beginning of Acts, Jesus says, well, I'm going away, but I'm sending you my Spirit, who was with you
Yeah.
in the ark, in the
Yeah.
temple, but now he's going to be in you, because you now become the temple of God. you know
Right.
um so anyways, basically the Philistines, they have this battle, and
They capture it, but then they return it. That's the
well, they
thing. Right?
capture it because they think, oh well, this is this is gonna like bring the Jewish people down, and it's gonna give us power and all that kind of thing. But then it goes on. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. But it goes on, obviously, like in chapter 5 and 6, it kind of backfires on them. Um but a couple things to just make note of, that I wrote down. I titled, so like in these thread journals, you give it a title every day when you
Yeah.
journal, and I titled this one, "Don't Trust in Arcs."
Yeah.
you know because like in verse 3, the elders of Israel asked, why did the Lord bring defeat upon us today before the Philistines? um, Let us bring the ark of the Lord's covenant from Shiloh, so that it may go with us and save us from the hand of our enemies. So it starts off, they get defeated in this little battle, and then they say, oh, well, then what we need to do is we just need to grab the ark, and the
Yeah.
ark's gonna like protect us.
Hmm.
But they made a mistake. They put their faith in the ark and not in the Lord.
Uh-huh.
So it's like putting your faith in like a program, or putting your faith in a system, or
Yeah.
putting your faith in a person, or putting your faith in a church, or
Yes.
or
Uh-huh.
putting your faith in anything other than the Lord. It's like trusting in an ark,
Hmm.
you know. And
Interesting.
so yeah, and so then of course they go out, and we don't have to read the whole story, but basically they get defeated. The Philistines take the ark. Eli's sons both die, and that's fulfilling a prophecy from chapter 2. And then poor Eli, he hears about it in verse 18. When he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell backward off his chair by the side of the gate, and his neck was broken, and he died.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a bad day for Eli. First he gets the news his sons are dead, then he hears that the ark is captured, and he freaks out, and he falls over backwards and breaks his
Break
neck and
his neck.
dies. So that
And
was the end of Eli. So so now the ark is gone, and the Philistines, like verse 1 of chapter 5, after the Philistines had captured the ark of God, they took it from Ebenezer to Ashdod, and then and they set it next to they had this false idol named Dagon or whatever it is, and
oh,
and they and
oh,
they
that's what
set
that is.
the ark next to
False
this
idol.
idol. And then
Yeah.
they come back the next day, and it's fallen on his face, and like it's all broken pieces. And then the next time, like its head and his head and his hands had been broken off, and they were lying there on the threshold. Only his body remained.
Huh.
So they're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then verse 6, the Lord's hand was heavy upon the people of Ashdod and its vicinity, and he brought devastation upon them because of the ark. And then, like verse 7, the ark of the God of Israel must not stay here with us, because his hand is heavy upon us and upon Dagon our God. And so then it goes on.
It's interesting how the whole word idolatry, when I remember growing up hearing about the word, I never really comprehended it, because it's not like in these times where it was a physical idol that they were worshiping, where our sense now of idolatry is more other things that we worship, such as celebrities or social
Right.
media. But as I've been reading this in Hosea, it's really crazy to see. They're it's pretty simple that they were the simplicity of it. They had an idol, they were worshiping it, but they were worshiping it. It wasn't God. Boom, idolatry. And like I said in our small group, it's kind of easy to laugh at because they're worshiping Dagon. But like I said, it's like our idols are just a little bit more complicated, but it's just as stupid
Right.
and silly that we're putting our Bible next to our phone or my PlayStation
Yeah.
controller and picking up and all that sort of thing. It's just kind of interesting. It's simpler here, so it's really kind of easy to now take that and apply it here to what
Yeah.
our more complicated version.
But the crazy thing is, like, things aren't going well for the Israelites or the Philistines, because the Israelites were doing the same thing. They were trusting in the ark,
Yeah.
and the other guys were trusting in Dagon, and either way, it didn't work out. And I thought this was kind of an interesting in the text notes in the NIV here on verse 6, about the Lord's hand was heavy and Dagon's broken hand lay on the ground. But the Lord shows the reality and strength of his own hand by bringing a plague on the people of Ashdod and the surrounding area. God would not be manipulated by his own people, nor would he permit the Philistines to think that their victory over the Israelites and the capture of the ark demonstrated the superiority of their God over the God of Israel.
Mm.
So even though like he basically let them capture the ark because he's trying to teach the Israelites a lesson of like, don't trust in the ark, but
Yeah.
he's still saying, yeah, but you guys didn't really win. Like,
Yeah.
I'm still the most powerful God.
Yeah. It's interesting how many times that happens. Like I said, read Hosea, you see kind of God's mercy comes in his wrath, in his other plans, I guess, because he's allowing this to happen so that it does not happen again, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
But then still steps in.
Yeah. Um, and then chapter 6, there really wasn't too much there. It was basically just the process of them like returning the ark, like
Yeah.
in 6:2, what should we do with the ark of the Lord? Tell us how we should send it back to its place. And so they come up with a plan, and they essentially carry out the plan to give it back. Um, and then like in verse 20, it's finally back in the hands of the Jewish people, and they say, who can stand in the presence of the Lord, this holy God? To whom will the ark go up from here? And so anyway, so now the ark is back in place, and everything's like okay. And so now Samuel is now like fully like the man, and he's he's like totally like the leader of the Israelites now. So this thing is Samuel subdues the Philistines in Mitzpah. And so like verse 3, and Samuel said to the whole house of Israel, if you are returning to the Lord with all your hearts, then rid yourselves of the foreign gods and the Ashtoreths, and commit yourselves to the Lord and serve him only. I thought that was pretty cool. Like he's like just laying it down now. Okay, you guys, have you learned yet what happened when we trusted the ark? We lost, this thing. Now it's back. We're not going to make the same mistake, and we're not start trusting the ark now. You're gonna, if you want to return to the Lord, then you got to be all in. Get rid of all these foreign guards. Get rid of all this other stuff, and commit yourselves to the Lord and serve Him only. I thought that was a great line.
Yeah.
In verse 3.
Well, it I don't know. It's kind of ironic because I just read. Now that we're caught up to where I was just reading earlier today at 8,
Yeah,
he says that, and then boom, Israel asks for a king. They're looking for something physical again, and something other than they want a king like everybody else, but they have a king, but they just don't see it.
yeah, and we can.
It's kind of ironic.
Yeah, and we can kind of go ahead and skip up to that because it's verse 7. I mean, chapter 7 is just a little bit more of like just some cool things about Samuel. Like the end of verse 13 says, throughout Samuel's lifetime, the hand of the Lord was against the Philistines, which means the hand of the Lord was with him. In verse 15, Samuel continued as judge over Israel all the days of his life. And so. Well, because right there, it does call him a judge there. So maybe I was wrong, but I know in other places it calls him a prophet or a seer.
Wait, where were you reading just then?
7:15.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. Okay. Yeah. Mine says leader, but yeah, somewhere else it had a footnote to judge. Oh yeah, it does. It does have a footnote to judge.
Yeah, I think he was basically just kind of like he was the man, and he was prophet, judge, whatever.
Yep.
So let's see what I have. Okay, yeah. So now 9. Yes. Okay. So first, yeah, chapter 8. Israel asks for a king. So now Samuel's now like the old man. So it's kind of skipped ahead a little bit, so 8:1, when Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as judges for Israel, but his sons did not walk in his ways. Verse 3, they turned aside after dishonest gain and accepted bribes and perverted justice. And so like really, really sucks. And then yeah, like you said, verse 5, and they said to him, "You're old, your sons don't walk in your ways. So now appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have." You know, um, but when they said, "Give us a king to lead us," this displeased Samuel. So he prayed to the Lord, and this is one of the saddest verses, I think. And the Lord told him, "Listen, uh, listen to all the people that the people are saying to you, but but don't worry, it's not you that they're rejecting, but they have rejected me as their king."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's one of the key verses in
Yeah,
here.
yeah. But that's also, nothing's changed, and that's the way it is even to this day. um God never forces himself on people,
Hmm.
and if you like, God says that to us today.
Hmm.
If give them what they want, like,
Yeah.
that's like in Romans 1, when it talks about that whole thing about like the very thing that they uh that I started morphing into Romans 7 for some reason. The very thing I do, I don't want to do in the but in Romans,
Just
in
do it.
Romans, yeah, but in Romans 1, there's that whole passage about like even though they knew the truth of God, they didn't regard that
Mm,
to be, they didn't hold on to that, and instead they exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and they worshiped and served created things rather than the creator. And it says, and then God gave them over to their own lustful desires, and he basically, like, said, "Okay,
mm,
if that's what you want, then go." you know
yeah.
um
Hmm.
so this is the pattern of the Lord. He's the king, but he's not going to force you to be his subject.
Yeah. It's kind of weird, I guess. I think a lot of people from the outside would be pretty shocked about this. They think that the Lord is like in this situation would reject that idea because no, he's the Lord. But really,
Yeah,
like you said, he if you want to be apart from the Lord, I guess, then so be it.
yeah,
It
yeah.
it's also kind of interesting too, is Samuel kind of puts on himself. I think where is it? I lost my spot. Listen to the people. Wait, listen. Yeah, because what says it's not you they have rejected, but you have rejected me as their king. So I think it's Samuel probably is embarrassed because he's probably thinking that he's failed the Lord,
Right.
but the Lord um, reassures him, I guess, that's no, it's not you that they have.
Yeah,
It's me that they have rejected.
yeah, yeah. And so, so then, the end of chapter 8 is basically them just affirming, like in 19 through 22, it sort of repeats the same thing, that we want a king over us. And the Lord, verse 22, answered, "Listen to them and give them a king." And then Samuel said to the men of Israel, "Everyone go back home.
Yeah.
It's going
Well,
to happen."
and yeah, in 10 through 18 is talking about that's going to happen. It's kind of dark and grim. That what
Yeah, yeah,
you're going to be served. That you're going to be the front line in the military. Your crop is going to be stolen. Your daughters will be taken. Your
yeah,
cattle, your cattle will be taken.
yeah. But
I,
let's not get ahead of ourselves, because this part here is like one of my favorite parts in this whole thing. So like I titled that one, "Don't Trust in Arcs."
yeah.
Um, this one I titled, "Looking for Donkeys." Um, because it's like this is like the perfect, like, divine appointment, like we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
Uh, because like this guy, you know, Abiel, whatever his name is, he's a Benjamite, and he wants his son Saul and a servant to go out and look for their lost donkeys. you know and so they go out, and they start looking around, and they're not finding the donkeys. And then I thought it was a pretty funny line in, like, verse 5, second half of verse 5. Saul's kind of ready to give up. He's like, "Come, let's go back, or my father will stop thinking about the lost donkeys, and he's going to start worrying about us."
Hmm.
We should probably just get back. And then the servant says, "Oh, well, I hear that there's a man of God in the next town over here. Let's just go ask him, and then if he doesn't know, then we can go back,
Hmm.
And so they're going up the hill to the town. They met some girls, which that's kind of cool. They met some girls.
So
That's verse 11.
is that the
you know
point of the donkeys though? Is to fit in the story as far as bringing Saul into the where Samuel was as far to anoint
Right,
him?
right. Yeah, that was the pretense for bringing him to the town. It's
Yeah.
just they're looking for the donkeys, and then so then, like, meanwhile, back in the farm, God had been speaking to Samuel at the same time, saying, like, yeah, here it is, verse 15. Now the day before Saul came, the Lord had revealed this to Samuel. About this time tomorrow, I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin, anoint him leader over my people Israel, and he will deliver my people from the hand of the Philistines, and blah, blah, blah. Um, and so back to verse 14. So now there's Saul and the servant walking up the hill, looking for this guy that they think might help them find the donkeys. They went up into the town. As they're entering it, there was Samuel.
Yeah.
and they have no idea who he is. And then Samuel looks at them and he's like, oh, the Lord says, that's it. That's the guy. Verse 17, when Samuel caught sight of Saul, the Lord said to him, that's the man I spoke to you about, and I mean, it's so cool, the ultimate divine appointment. Like, God totally just like arranged the whole thing, and then it's pretty cool how,
Yeah.
like, Samuel, like, doesn't like tell him for a while either. He's like, well,
Invites him
let's
into the food.
let's go back home, we'll eat, and then later on we can talk about all this stuff, talk about your donkeys and everything. um
Yeah,
like,
it brings him the best. What it brings him the piece of meat I gave you. He brings
oh
the piece
yeah,
of
he
meat he
set
set
aside some
aside.
special, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
So if
yeah.
you're Saul, you're probably thinking like, what's going on here? I'm invited into here. I'm getting the special
I
meat.
know, yeah. Like the last verse of chapter 9, but you stay here a while so that I may give you a message from God.
Hmm.
Pretty cool. you know oh, a message from God, that sounds pretty intriguing. um and then chapter 10, Samuel took a flask of oil, poured it on Saul's head, kissed him, and said, has not the Lord anointed you leader over his inheritance? um yeah, it's crazy. So, super amazing, uh, divine appointment.
Yeah, I kind of looked over that because I was a little confused with the whole donkeys, but now rereading it, yeah. But it's also kind of weird too, as far as this whole divine appointment, except for the fact that it's under the pretense that it's because Israel wants a king that's other than God, I guess, not other than God, but a
Yeah,
physical king. It's kind of weird in that sense, but it kind of just shows you the weird and mysterious ways that God works.
yeah, yeah. Well, the thought that just came to me. We've talked about this before, but like, we've used the metaphor of a GPS.
Hmm.
That God, the Holy Spirit's kind of like the great GPS.
Yeah.
And he tells you which way to go and everything like that. But if you don't do it that way, he's like, okay, well, rerouting, we'll still get you there. It's just going to go a different way. And so
Yeah.
I think that's kind of, like it would have been God's preference for him to have always been their king and just keep going with, like, the
Uh-huh.
prophets and judges and that kind of stuff. But
Huh.
he's like saying, okay, well, you want a king? I'll give you a king. But let's make sure that it's one that's going to be, following
Yeah.
after me. And
Hmm.
so the crazy thing here is, Saul he starts off, I mean, he's a stud,
Yeah.
plus he's like super tall, I guess, a foot taller than everybody else, it says, or a head taller than everybody else.
Hmm.
um and what was the other verse that I had written down here, chapter 10? Like verse 8, go down ahead of me to Gilgal. I will surely come down to you to sacrifice burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. But you must wait 7 days until I come to you and tell you what you're to do. And And I've got a little note in my Bible, because you have to remember this little thing. You must wait 7 days until I come to you and tell you what to do. And in chapter 13, basically Saul doesn't wait long enough, and he ends up disobeying the Lord, and that ends up being Saul's downfall. But we'll get to that next week when we look at that.
Yeah.
But anyways, right now Saul is totally great. Like chapter 10, verse 6, the Spirit of the Lord will come upon you in power, and you'll prophesy with them, and you'll be changed into a different person. Once these signs are fulfilled, do whatever your hand finds to do, for God is with you. What a great promise to Saul, you know. And then in verse 9, as Saul turned to leave Samuel, God changed Saul's heart, and all these signs were fulfilled that day. When they arrived at Gibeah, whatever it is, a procession of prophets met him, and the Spirit of God came upon him in power, and he joined in their prophesying. So Saul is just like, doing great.
Yeah.
And then verse 14, now Saul's uncle asked him, where have you been? He says, well, I was looking for the donkeys. but then we saw Samuel, and then Saul's uncle, like, well, what did Samuel say? Because everybody knows who Samuel is. And Saul replied, he assured us that the donkeys had been found. So Samuel's like, don't worry, the donkeys already went home. But he did not tell his uncle what Samuel said about the kingship. So he kind of totally downplayed it with his own family.
Yeah,
like,
what?
Yeah, he didn't say anything at that time.
Seamless. Didn't say anything.
No. So he gets back home and like, where have you been? And well, we were looking for the donkeys. And well, the donkeys already came home. Well, what were you doing? Well, we were talking to Samuel. Well, what did he say? Well, he just told us that it was okay, and Samuel that the donkeys were okay, and so we came back.
Does it say? Did I miss that? Does it say further on that if he reveals to his family that?
Oh yeah, later on he does. Yeah.
He said,
yeah.
In chapter 10 though.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I don't remember. Like verse 21. Finally, Saul, son of Kish, was chosen, but when they looked for him, he was not to be found. So Samuel Samuel makes this big production out of like actually naming him. So yeah, like verse 17, Samuel summoned all the people of Israel to this one place, and he kind of like says, okay, he makes a big show out of it. Okay, now I'm going to give you a king. And so now present yourselves before the Lord by your tribes and clans. So Samuel brought all the tribes of Israel near. The tribe of Benjamin was chosen. Then he brought forward the tribe of Benjamin, clan by clan, and Matri's clan was chosen, the one that Saul's from. And finally, Saul, son of Kish, was chosen. But when they looked for him, he wasn't to be found. So they inquired further of the Lord, has the man here come here yet? And the Lord said, yes, he's hid himself among the baggage. So, then they ran and they brought him out. And as he stood among the people, he was a head taller than any of the people. And Samuel said to the people, do you see the man the Lord has chosen? There is no one like him among all the people. And they shouted, long live the king. So now, the cat's out of the bag.
Big celebration here, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, but it seems like Saul was pretty like freaked out by the whole thing. It's almost like he didn't tell his uncle and then his family before this, because like, you kind of wonder if like he even like totally believed it himself.
Yeah.
Until they finally made this big, presentation.
I don't blame him. I mean, he went looking for his donkeys and got some olive oil thrown on top of him, and
yeah. And he's hiding along the baggage.
Yeah,
like, where's Saul?
I read that, and I was trying to visualize what that would look like. It made me laugh.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at where I don't want to go ahead of you. Where are you? Where are you looking at?
Well, I was just about to finish up 10. But I did want to. I actually, if it's okay, I wouldn't mind talking about 11 too, because I actually just realized that I read 11.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say 27. I'm just rereading this again. How can this fellow save us? They despised him and brought him no gifts, but Saul kept silent.
Yeah.
So what? So what, the people of Israel have already rejected him? Is that what this is
Well,
saying?
I think that they had their doubts, but what I like was verse 26. It says, Saul also went to his home by Gibeah, accompanied by valiant men whose hearts God had touched.
Mhm.
So it sounds to me like he put together a team,
Yeah.
of valiant men. This is a great description. Like, wouldn't it be awesome if people described, like our group as a group of valiant men whose hearts God had touched?
Maybe that should be our new group chat name for our
Valiant
text.
men. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, I think that they didn't. So this is why I wanted to look at chapter 11 too, because I think at this point they were still super skeptical. Like, well, who is this guy? Like, how's he going to lead us? He's just like this guy from the tribe of Benjamin. He's no big deal. Well, so now in chapter 11, as soon as Saul is made king, then basically the is it the Ammonites now? They basically are going to like test him, and so they get into a battle right away. So like almost immediately he's thrown into this they're being invaded, and there's this big battle, and so he's tested right out of the gate. you know uh, so like 11:6, when Saul heard their words, the Spirit of God came upon him in power, and he burned with anger. I thought that was pretty cool. Like um in the same sentence, the Spirit of God came upon him in power, and he burned with anger. So it was like righteous anger that that they had been attacked, and they had broken their treaty, and they brought disgrace on
Yeah.
all of Israel in verse 2. And so he's just like pissed. you know and then
Yeah.
and
And
then
then
the
he
terror
mustered
of the
up a
Lord
crew of
fell
people.
upon the people, and they turned out as one man, in verse 7.
Yeah. And then the thing always amazes me about these biblical battles or whatnot is what
Yeah.
he musters 300,000 people.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Yeah. Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Like
I don't
what?
know I don't know how all that worked,
Yeah,
but
I mean, I've seen that in a couple of books of the Bible where they just have massive amounts of people.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and how they organized all that, I don't know, but the bottom line is, he he's victorious. And then that last part of chapter 11, Saul confirmed as king. I think
Mm,
this is where it finally like settles in. The people then said to Samuel, who was it that asked, shall Saul reign over us? This is what you were talking about. The people that were skeptics. Who was it that said, shall Saul reign over us? Bring these men to us and we'll put them to death.
mhm.
But Saul said, no, there's no more dying today. For this day the Lord has rescued Israel. And
Mm,
he gives God the credit. Then
mhm.
Samuel said to the people, come, let us go to Gilgal and there reaffirm the kingship. So all the people went to Gilgal and confirmed Saul as king in the presence of the Lord. And there they sacrificed fellowship offerings before the Lord, and Saul and all the Israelites had a great celebration.
Mm,
Isn't that cool?
yeah,
It's just like so cool. So now, like, even Samuel's on board. He's like, okay, you
yeah,
know, this is amazing, what God's done. And all
yeah,
those skeptics at the end of chapter 10, it's like, who was that anyway that was saying
yeah.
that we don't want Saul?
After
Like,
they just won this huge thing and they want to chop
yeah,
these people's heads off who are doubting.
yeah. It's like, yeah. So that's pretty sweet. And so it would be nice if the story just ends there, and then it just says, and then Saul reigned over Israel for the next 40 years, and he trusted God, and the Lord was good and blessed Israel for all those years of Saul's reign.
Yeah,
That'd be a
but
nice ending.
I watched the Bible Project video on it, so I know the spoiler. I know I know
Doesn't
it
work
doesn't go
out
that
so
way.
well.
Yeah.
No, no.
But
So
it's interesting how
yeah.
many times though that they ask for king, they get a king, and then they doubt that king, and then
Yeah.
they ask for it's like proof. I guess that kind of happens throughout the Bible. I know there's
Yeah.
times where God literally will physically like prove himself, prove his whether it's
Mhm.
through another person or I can't remember the story if it was what we were reading or something else where he would like you go out and like people were asking for proof of him and he would like they left their what was it? They left like their fur pelts overnight and it became wet or something. I don't know, something weird, but
Oh no, that's a fleece, leaving a
yeah,
fleece.
I don't know. It's just
Yeah,
kind of
and
interesting how
yeah, and if there's no dew on it, then it means
yeah,
one thing, and if there is dew on it, then it means something else. Yeah,
yeah. No, it's just interesting that so many times that the Lord is doubted and so many times the Lord will physically show otherwise.
yeah, yeah. So, well, this is fun. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Grady, I hope you enjoy listening to this, and maybe we'll just like post it in the group chat so anybody that wants to
Yeah, maybe we get
listen to
everyone
it
on
can.
board.
Yeah, yeah, and then whoever wants to can catch up, and we'll shoot for like 12 through wherever a good breaking point is,
Yeah, 'cause sometimes
around
yeah.
20 or so, but um
Saul tries to kill David and Jonathan.
oh yeah, that's this next section, these next the next 20 chapters are super cool,
Yeah, it's all David
but
and whatnot.
yeah, all the David and Jonathan, and
Cool.
but this part was cool too, so
Yeah, we got a good base for it. I'm excited to
yeah, yeah.
learn it.
But what I like, is, even though I know the other day we were all saying how, and it is true, the Old Testament is a lot more difficult than the New Testament. The New Testament, you just close your eyes, go like that, and you can get a great verse that just like so cool,
Yeah,
but here you really have to work through these stories. But when you actually do work through them, there's so many little cool nuggets, but you
yeah,
have to look for phrases,
yeah,
and little, you know, just little, you know,
yeah,
one sentence, or look for an overall principle, like the parents of Samuel,
yeah,
who don't get any press at all ever,
yeah,
yet this godly family who year after year were serving the Lord, and prayed, and had great faith, and they gave their son up, and they got 5 more kids after that.
yeah,
There's just so many like super cool things. Don't
yeah,
don't don't trust in arcs.
yeah,
That's one of my big takeaways from this whole section. And
yeah, for
I
sure.
even wrote in my journal, like what are my arcs? What are the things that I tend to trust in sometimes instead of God?
Yeah,
And then I love the whole looking for donkeys, and because sometimes your day starts out, and you think that it's just a day. Oh yeah, I got to go look for donkeys, and you don't
yeah,
even know that something amazing is going to happen that day if your eyes are open and you're looking for God's divine appointments.
yeah. No, yeah. So many good takeaways here. I mean,
Yeah,
like you said, there's so many there are one line like one little verses in here that have a huge impact, but you have to read the 20 verses before it to
to
make that
get to it,
significant.
right?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
and
not
to have the
significant
whole
that come
context.
out. Yeah.
Yeah,
To me and you, it's like, oh, that verse about Hannah having 5 more kids means nothing to someone who hasn't read it, but to us
right.
who's read it, it's like shows God's faithfulness and
Yeah, exactly,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
it's
Well, you
cool.
want to pray for us, and then we'll
Yeah.
we'll call it good.
Dear Lord, thank you for this last minute time we could throw together to dive more deeply into your word and the Bible, Lord. We thank you for this book, First Samuel, this first section, Lord. We thank you for what we can learn from it, Lord. We thank you for your faithfulness. We thank
Yeah.
you that even in times where we're crying out to you, Lord, we thank you that you're still listening, and we praise you no matter what our circumstances are.
Yeah.
Um, so, Lord, we just pray that we'll be able to continue to dive into this word. Pray that we all will be able to, mostly me, will be able to find good time alone to really understand this in our own time with you, Lord, so that we can have a plentiful discussion as a group, Lord. We pray these things in your name. Amen.
Mm. Amen. Amen. Awesome.
Cool. Thank you, Bill, so much. This was great. I needed something like this to kind of
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
me
me
good
too.
on Samuel.